The old method of board and pillar mining was dangerous. Men were required to take care of their own safety.
In the old board and pillar approach that was talked about earlier, you leave behind a space in which the roof is actually held up by timbers, and people's safety is dependent on those timbers staying up and the roof staying where it is. In the long wall system, you don't have that problem because the long wall system involves the controlled collapse of roofs in an area away from where people are. So the long wall system allows, first of all, greater safety because people work within the confines of a fully enclosed roof system. But secondly, it also allows the removal of a far higher percentage of coal than can be achieved with board and pillar because you're no longer needing to leave very large, thick pillars of coal in place to support the roof. The roof itself is allowed to collapse, so you take all of those out.
In the 1960s, the Illawarra was the first place to trial longwall mining in Australia.
Australia on the south coast in the 60s, in this area in the Illawarra, there were three mines that started longwalling, which was Coalcliff, South Bulli and Kimera. Originally, our equipment came from England. England had different roof conditions. They had a more pliable roof, which allowed the roof to fall in behind it, whereas we had a heavy sandstone overlying roof, and when conditions got heavy here, because of the massive sandstone roof we have above us here, these chocks weren't doing a very good job. So Coalcliff had a problem with this, the longwall that was introduced there. They had problems with the machine that was cutting the coal. They had a plough, which is a machine that runs up and down and got chisel blades on it and just kept cutting the coal away. Later they had a shearer, which is a rotating drum machine, which they had a little bit more success. They then, after a while, they just didn't work properly. The roof conditions were too bad and they pulled it out. South Bulli was the next one to try the longwall. It was fairly successful. And Kimera was also a mine, which was an AIS owned mine in those days. Their longwalls were fairly successful, but then later they suffered from the heavy roof conditions of the overlying sandstone. The other problem is that when you don't run a longwall continuously, the roof conditions can catch up to you. In other words, the chocks yield and yield and yield over a weekend, or if it's not producing, and they become iron-bound. So BHP, I know, introduced a four shift operation where it was continuously operating over the 24 hours to keep the longwall moving and not stop. Modifications were made to the supports then on the job, which helped, and eventually working with the English producers or suppliers of the roof supports, we came up with a heavier support, higher yield loads, which made them more successful. Some of these mines that would have gone bust under the board and pillar extraction actually started making some good money and making profits. And safer work, much safer. You hardly hear of any fatalities on a longwall nowadays compared to the older pre-60s sort of thing. To have this unit sitting here, probably any coal miner goes past knows what it is, but any other person probably thinks, what's that thing sitting there?
Longwall mining revolutionised coal mining in Australia, allowing coal mining to remain competitive and utilising up to 100% of coal extraction, reducing fatalities. It was thanks to the perseverance of miners and management who worked tirelessly and who had to work together to produce longwall equipment that was suitable for Australian conditions.